Time Warner Cable, where HD is free with digital cable. And the Minnesota Twins coming into town, and I'll be broadcasting from left field tonight. And Frank will be broadcasting from behind me up in the Royals' brand new Hall of Fame, and he's going to introduce us to several portions of that Hall of Fame throughout the broadcast. Frank, what have you seen so far?
Well, right now I'm watching a World Championship video, Ryan. Now, you always go to the best first. So I'm sitting there standing by the World Series trophy and watching watching us really finish off the Cardinals in the World Series in 1985. So right now I'm starting to get a little bit excited and starting to feel like I'm playing again.
Is it well attended?
Right now, yeah. People are starting to stir around, and there's some pens and papers out. There's some balls, and I don't know what the autograph situation is going to be like in here, but I think every new group that comes through is going to be, hey, there's Frank White. What do you think about that? We'll go from there.
Well, you're going to have quite an audience on Fox Sports Kansas City, and I'm sure you'll have a live studio audience as well, as the fans just like us are going to want to hear what you have to say about certain parts of the exhibits.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, Ryan, and I tell you, just getting into it, and as I look around, there's a lot of stories. There's a story for each picture in here. So just trying to hit some of the highlights of the museum and just try to create an interest of the fans to want to come out and see it continually throughout the season.
All right, we'll check in with you soon.
Okay, go get him.
So the Royals are on the field, and here's Luke Hochevar, and this is what he's done this year. Luke is a lot like Nick Blackburn in that it's been a while now since he has won a game. He's winless in his last 4 starts. And his last victory was here at Kauffman Stadium on July the 25th against the Rangers. And since that win, his earned run average is 8.59. He's coming off a loss on Saturday at Detroit. The Royals dropping that game 10-3. And in that start, that was a career high 12 hits allowed for Hochevar in just 4 innings. He didn't walk anyone. That continues to be something that the Royals see as an improvement this year. If you get past the wins and losses in the ERA and you want to look at one stat that really stands out for Luke this year as opposed to last year, it's a lot less walks. Well, the last time the Royals saw the Twins was at the beginning of the last road trip, and the Royals taking 2 out of 3 from Minnesota, and now the Twins have lost 13 of their last 20 games. So they're in 3rd place in the American League Central coming in tonight, and now 6.5 games back. Denard Span leads off, and Hochevar misses high. Span having a good year. He's hitting over 300. And he is 2nd in the American League in infield hits. And he pulls one to deep first, and Billy gets it to Hochevar just in front of the speedy Denard Span, and 1 down. And the defense behind Luke Hochevar tonight with David DeJesus, Mitch Meyer, and Josh Anderson in the outfield. Mark Tien is at 3rd base with Unievsky Betancourt and Alberto Callaspo up the middle. Billy Butler at first, and Miguel Olivo behind the plate. And with 1 out, Miguel Olivo wants to go out and talk to Luke Hochevar. Now, Miguel has great numbers in his career against Minnesota starter Nick Blackburn. So he's in there tonight. The last time Luke started, Brian Pena was behind home plate. And Brian Pena tried to take most of the blame for Hochevar's outing against the Tigers. Way inside on Orlando Cabrera. Brian saying after the game, it was my fault. Felt like he didn't call a good game for Hochevar. Hochevar and Royals manager Trey Hillman disagreed. Luke saying he felt like he was on the same page all night with Brian Pena. And of course, the pitcher always has the right to shake off a sign if it's not what the catcher gives him. And Trey Hillman's response to all that was the same as Luke Hochevar, but at the same time, he was impressed that a young catcher saw his responsibility in that game as a catcher. Brian Pena currently has an 11-game hitting streak, not in the lineup tonight. 3-2 on Orlando Cabrera. When the Royals were in Minnesota, Cabrera was in the middle of a 22-game hitting streak. He hit safely in all 3 games against the Royals. That streak has since ended, and Hochevar comes back after falling behind 3-0 and strikes out Cabrera. So we were just talking about how Luke has really reduced his walks this year, and even falling behind 3-0 puts together 3 good pitches to strike out Cabrera. 73 degrees. We started at 7:11 Central Daylight Time, and the time and temp presented by the parking spot. Easy to spot, easy to park. The parking spot at KCA. And now the major league's leading hitter, Joe Mauer. 378. That leads both leagues. And against the Royals, he's hitting well over 500. 1 ball, 1 strike. So Mauer is going for his 3rd batting title in the last 4 years. He won his first back in 06. He hit 347. Last year, he hit 328. And now he's up near 380. 2 balls, 1 strike. And this is groundbreaking stuff. When Joe Mauer won his first title back in 2006, that was the first time ever a catcher won a batting title in the American League. And now he's on his way to winning his 3rd in 4 years. Good fastball, 3 balls, 2 strikes. Luke had one of his better starts of the year against Minnesota. That was back on June the 29th. 7 shutout innings. And the Royals won that game 4-2. He is 1-1 in his career against the Twins. Still 3 balls, 2 strikes. Billy backhands a long underhand toss, gets some help from the stretching Hochevar, and Luke has a 1-2-3 top of the 1st. One, two, three in the top of the 1st. And as we go to the bottom half, here is Trey Hillman's lineup tonight, presented by M&I Bank. Mitch Meyer moves up to the number 2 position tonight. Willie Bloomquist is out. Mike Jacobs had 6 RBIs on the last road trip. He'll bat 4th. Mark Tien's at 3rd base with Alex Gordon at AAA, and Mark should see a lot of playing time there. Miguel Olivo has great numbers against Nick Blackburn Josh Anderson will bat 8th. He'll be in right field, and Unievsky Betancourt at shortstop. Royals facing Nick Blackburn and opponents, and that includes the Royals jumping on the first pitch, and the league hitting .387 on that pitch. And the Royals were very aggressive against Blackburn when they faced him 2 starts ago, back on August the 11th, scoring 6 runs in 1 2/3 innings. Ball 1 on David DeJesus, who hit an even .300 through Minnesota, Detroit, and Chicago. And he also walked 7 times. Still stuck in the 260s. 1 ball, 1 strike. Something we can all keep an eye on tonight, and Frank talked about this when we were in Minnesota. Blackburn exclusively pitched middle and away, really didn't challenge the Royals inside. Now there's a pitch inside, but he badly missed the target. Maurer was set up away. But after a while, Frank really felt that the Royals realized that he was not pitching inside. Everything was middle away. They started looking for it, and they pounded Nick Blackburn. That pitch was up into center field, and Gomez jogging in to make a 2-hand catch. 1 down. Minnesota defensively, good arms in the outfield with Young, Gomez, and Span. On the infield, Joe Creedy, Orlando Cabrera, AT KCA, and Michael Kadire at first with Justin Morneau out, and Joe Maurer, who, by the way, is an excellent catcher. We talk so much about his hitting, but Joe Maurer is a Gold Glove catcher, and he won his first Gold Glove last year. Curveball in for a strike on Mitch Meyer. Meyer's road trip was a lot like DeJesus. He had a good batting average and a lot of walks, so a high on-base percentage. Out towards left field, and right in front of me, Delman Young makes the catch. 2 up, 2 down. Let's go up to the Royals Hall of Fame and check in with Royals Hall of Famer Frank White.
Hey Ryan, this is I'm in the Royals Hall of Fame, and right here I'm looking at the naming of the team coming back to KC, the Royals. I was a high schooler when the A's left to go to Oakland, and we had a year without baseball, and then this is when Mr. Kaufman decided to step up to the plate to keep baseball in Kansas City.
2 down, and Billy Butler coming to the plate. Now, of course, Frank, the basketball team at the time was the Kansas City Kings, so there were royalty names, and of course there was the Great American Royal, and that was pretty much the genesis of the Royals name, wasn't it?
Well, yes, I think there was also the Cincinnati Royals, and there were a lot of Royal teams back in those days, but this was put out to the fans. The fans actually voted on this name, and if you look at the case here, you can see some of the logos that came up, but the Royals actually were picked by the fans to be called the Kansas City Royals. And the Royal Lancers also came with Mr. Kaufman. This was a group of businessmen and women who got together to sell season tickets to help keep baseball alive in KC, and they're still here with the present-day Royals and helping to sell season tickets and keep people excited about coming out to Royal Stadium, which is right now Kaufman Stadium.
And folks, I can tell you that for years Frank has been begging to get his hands on one of those Blazers, but the Lancers have said you need to become a Lancer first before you get to wear one of the Blazers.
Well, Ryan, I am an honorary Lancer. So I do,
did you get a Blazer?
I do have a Blazer, and I got the little magnetic Royals logo that I clip on my pocket when I go out. But it's amazing that the Royals Lancers have been such a big part of Royals baseball here in Kansas City, and it's just amazing to me that it just keeps growing. They just keep growing as a group, and they just show their love and interest for Kansas City Royal baseball by going out and selling these season tickets and keeping people excited about coming to the stadium.
Well, they're excited right now, Frank, as Billy Butler just hit a line drive home run over the wall in left center field, and I got a great look at it being in straightaway left. That ball had no art to it at all, and this was a 1-2 pitch, and Billy going down and getting it. So he hits his 15th home run, adding to his career high, and drives in his 65th. And the Royals take a 1-0 lead in the bottom of the first inning. So Blackburn, who's really been struggling in the second half, was that close, one strike away from a 1-2-3 bottom of the first, but Billy Butler ruined that. One ball, one strike on Jacobs. This is the view that I had. Morgan Kramer is the photographer just to my left. So we literally had a front row view of Billy Butler's home run. And a changeup makes it 2 balls, 1 strike on Mike Jacobs. Didn't get a lot of playing time on the road trip, but he made the most of it. 6 hits, and he had 6 RBIs. Just missed. 3 balls, 1 strike. So Blackburn gives up his 18th home run of the year. 2 stats that really stand out for him if you just look at his line for 2009. He has now given up 180 hits. That's the second most in the league, and now 18 home runs. And Jacobs takes a 2-out walk. Well, that does happen often. The pitcher allows a home run, and especially for Blackburn, being ahead in the count, 1 ball, 2 strikes, and then pitches the next batter carefully, and we know all about Mike Jacobs' power. So Jacobs walks, and with 2 down, Alberto Callaspo. Alberto trying to shake off the last road trip. Hit 182 and only had 1 RBI. And now Blackburn has missed with 5 in a row. Alberto, with that road trip, seeing his average drop below 300, now at 295. One and one. Well, only 6 weeks to go, and as the Royals start looking forward, it'll be interesting to see where Alberto Callaspo will play next year if he's with the Royals, and where he will hit in the batting order. And because of injuries this year, of course, Trey Hillman has had to shuffle around almost every hitter. The only real constants in the second half have been David DeJesus at the top of the order, and Billy Butler batting third, and Mike Jacobs, when he's in there, batting fourth. But everyone else has been shuffled around. And where do you put Alberto Callaspo? Right now, the Royals are going to put him on base. So at 2 outs and nobody on, Butler homers, Jacobs walks, and now Callaspo singles. And 2 on, 2 out for Martin. Blackburn taking something off that pitch when he was ahead in the count, but Alberto able to stay back and strokes it into right field. Callaspo has been used several times this year as a number 2 hitter, and you figured he would be an ideal number 2 hitter the way he controls the bat. Right now, Trey Hillman using him in the meat of the batting order, batting 5th. Now ball 1 on Mark Teahen. Teahen really had 2 different road trips. Through Minnesota and Detroit, he was 1 for 14, but then picked it up in Chicago and went 5 for 10 against the White Sox. And he pulls that to KCA. He flips to second, and Cabrera is there, and that retires the side. But Billy Butler goes deep, and the Royals lead 1-0. 2-0 lead. Minnesota coming up in the second inning, and we go upstairs to the Royals Hall of Fame. And once again, check in with Frank.
Hey, Ryan. We're here in front of the first class meeting with Mr. Kaufman and the first class of the Royals Baseball Academy. If you can look right above his head, you can kind of really see me sitting in the classroom and meeting him and seeing how sharp a dresser he was. It was pretty exciting for us. But, you know, the first words out of his mouth was, "As young men, as you know, I'm worth many millions of dollars." And, you know, we all had big eyes because we were only making $48 a month after taxes. So that was he kind of put us in our place right there saying, hey, this is who I am. This is where I hope for you guys to be major league ball players and have an opportunity to play in the major leagues and hopefully be where he is. But the one thing that we really admired about Mr. K was the fact that he really cared about us as players from the standpoint that when we went to junior college, the one thing he really wanted us to do was take speech. And then that's one thing that he said, that you're going to have to get to the major leagues, you have to do interviews, have to talk to the press. So he wanted to make sure everyone took that class when they were in junior college.
Frank, what was it like treating a sport like a subject in school?
Well, the school part was in the mornings. We only did a half a day. The only thing about the first class was nobody really knew what they wanted to do with us. Everybody that came in to talk to us, it was like cloning. Ted Williams came in and said everybody had to swing with a little up in their swing. So we went out after he left, and we were all swinging with a little up in our swing. And then they brought in Jim Lemon. He was a power hitter for the Senators, and he also had an up in his swing. Then they brought in Amos Otis to talk about base running, Cookie Rojas to talk about infield. So it really wasn't a lot of individualized things going on. Actually, the first guy who had an opportunity to audition to be the first director of the academy, it was an Army guy, a military guy, and he wanted us to march on and off the field. So, you know, that didn't go over too well.
Royals with a chance to turn 2, and they do. 5-4-3. So Kadire bounces into the double play. So 2 down, nobody on in the second inning. So Michael Kadire, who is picking up for Justin Morneau at first base, batting in his normal number 5 position. Grounding into a double play, bringing up Joe Creedy with nobody on base, and that's good news for the Royals because Creedy in the series in Minnesota, the one game that Minnesota won, Joe Creedy was part of a 5-run bottom of the first inning, hitting a 3-run home run. Olivo going up the line, wants it, and that's the inning. So leadoff single, a double play and a pop-up, and a scoreless second for Hochevar. Hall of Fame. Frank is inside the Royals Hall of Fame, and our You Call It tonight, presented by Sprint, has to do with the future of the Hall of Fame. Who should be next? Kevin Appier, Joe Randa, Kevin Seitzer, or Mike Sweeney? Text 432-432. Enter keyword Royals, followed by a space. That's a foul ball, by the way. And your selection, A, B, C, or D. So a right-hand pitcher, a couple of third basemen, and a first baseman. And right now, Mike Sweeney, the only of that group still playing, and we'll see him on the next road trip when the Royals travel to Seattle and then on to Oakland. So one strike on Miguel Olivo. And now Blackburn hits the outside corner. No balls, 2 strikes. And that's why Miguel Olivo is in there tonight. 6 for 11 with 2 home runs against Nick Blackburn. And he rolls it right to Casilla, who fumbles but recovers quickly and gets Olivo. It's been a tough year for Alexi Casilla. He's been in AAA a couple of times this year. He began the year in AAA and then called back up for the Twins, but not for very long, and they shipped him back out on May the 16th. So one down for Josh Anderson. Anderson didn't play a whole lot in Chicago, and the reason for that was because of an injury that occurred during the Minnesota series. He went sliding in head first into third base and got tangled up with Joe Creedy and injured his left index finger. Now that's his glove hand, so it doesn't bother him when he's on defense, but it does bother him when he's at the plate. And we just saw his grip. And when that finger was bothering him in the next series at Detroit, and when he played in Chicago, he wasn't really able to grip the bat the way he normally does. He had to leave that index finger off the bat. It was affecting his swing. And you can see some tape there on that hand to keep the index finger up against the middle finger kind of serving as a splint to make sure that there isn't too much flex. But getting the game off on Wednesday and the day off yesterday, Josh saying the finger feeling a lot better tonight as Delman Young brings down the fly ball. So 2 up, 2 down against Blackburn in the second inning. Here's tonight's Roadrunner Turbo Speed Pitch comparison from the first inning. Coach Haver topping out at 93, as did Nick Blackburn. Fast is even faster. Double your speed with Roadrunner Turbo from Time Warner Cable. And now Yuniesky Betancourt. And a sinker hits the inside corner. Betancourt batting just .208 on the road trip. The Royals are more and more encouraged with his approach at the plate, working longer counts, swinging at fewer bad pitches, and drawing more walks. He had 4 walks on the road trip, and it doesn't sound like much when the Royals played 9 games on the trip. But you consider that Betancourt all season has only 16 walks. And he hits that one to Delman Young in left field, and this time Blackburn completes the 1-2-3 inning. By Kia Motors. To learn more, visit kia.com. By AT&T, switch to the nation's fastest 3G network. AT&T, your world delivered. Delman Young leads off the top of the third, and on one pitch grounds out to Unievsky Betancourt. Only one base runner so far for Minnesota now in 2 1/3 innings, but Hochevar has still faced the minimum after Michael Kadire grounded into a double play. And up comes Carlos Gomez. That was quite a threat last year for Gomez, who had 30 bunt hits, and that was the most in the American League. Combination of great speed and power potential. He's down quickly, no balls and 2 strikes, but hasn't had as much playing time this year. One and 2 on Gomez. He was the centerpiece from the Mets to the Twins in the Johan Santana deal. Last year finished with 7 home runs, 59 RBIs, and 33 stolen bases. The Twins having some difficulty convincing him that right now his game should be getting on base and using his speed as opposed to swinging for the fences. And at times the swing will get long and over aggressive, swinging at pitches out of the strike zone, over swinging on pitches that the Twins would just like to see him hit hard up the middle and then get on base and become a threat on the base paths. But when he is right, he is quite a distraction on the field. When he's on the bases, he has a great arm in the outfield, excellent speed. And hammers that ball just foul off the left field line. The first number is the one that the Twins are concerned with the most. They can deal with the slugging percentage, but an on-base percentage that is under 300. So great speed, but he's on base less than 30% of the time. Grounds out to third and 2 down in the 3rd inning. Well, Saturday afternoons were made for baseball, and this week the Fox game of the week takes us to Dodger Stadium, where the Chicago Cubs, who are falling out of contention in the National League Central, will take on the first place Dodgers. Fox Saturday Baseball this week at 3 p.m. on Fox. And now Lexi Casilla taking a strike, 0-1. And we were talking about Casilla when he was on defense in the bottom of the 2nd inning. And now he's bounced back and forth between AAA and the big leagues. He's also at the plate batting just 179. The Twins had visions of enough offense and a lot of defense up the middle this year, with Casilla at second and Nick Punto at short. A couple of switch hitters who typically control the bat well, Twins type hitters. But Casilla with a very low batting average, and Punto is hitting just .211. And it's an easy 1-2-3 3rd inning for Hochevar. All of the outs on the ground. Kansas resident, owns and operates J14 Enterprises, a farm and ranch that is part of the community-supported agricultural coalition. Jennings, who celebrates his 81st birthday next month, has been farming for 40 years. Enjoying that great seat that Buck enjoyed right behind home plate as Royals come up in the bottom of the third inning. And ball one on David DeJesus, and we are joined up here, I can't call it the booth, but our position tonight by Missouri Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder, who's here to talk about an important event that's coming up in the state of Missouri. That's going to begin in St. Louis and end here in Kansas City. And it's a cycling race, which is going to feature some of the best cyclists in the United States. As DeJesus drives it to deep right, and that is gone. Second base umpire Bruce Dreckman getting a long look at it. Came back in play. And the Royals have hit their second home run of the night. Billy Butler in the first. And now David DeJesus leading off the bottom of the third. And for David, that is his 10th of the year.
How about those Royal sluggers?
A team that comes in tonight second from the bottom in the American League in home runs hit, but certainly not showing that tonight with 2 home runs off of Nick Blackburn in less than 3 innings. And now Mitch Meyer. So Peter, tell us about the Tour of Missouri professional cycling
The largest
race.
sporting event ever brought to Missouri is coming back for the 3rd straight year. This year we end in Kansas City on Sunday the 13th of September. We start in St. Louis on Labor Day, Monday the 7th. And a big weekend of cycling here in western Missouri on Friday the 11th. We're in Sedalia for time trials. We have an evening concert there with Sarah Evans, a Missouri native, that will benefit our veterans. Then Saturday morning, the 12th, is Chillicothe to St. Joe, and the finale here in Kansas City on Sunday.
And now Mitch Meyer into center field with a single, so Mitch is 1 for 2.
You're going to have to keep me around. There have been 2 batters, and a home run and a single.
That's the way it works around here. You know, now if this were a 1-2-3 inning, this might be your only visit ever with Royals television.
That's right.
Now this has quite an economic impact on the state of Missouri, doesn't it?
We had an independent economic impact study performed by the University of Missouri School of Business that said for our expenditure of about $1.7 million in tourism tax money that would have gone to promote the state anyway, it had an almost $30 million impact in tourism dollars to our state.
As I was looking at some of the facts on the Tour of Missouri race, I also saw that almost half a million people at some point were either spectating or part of the race, showing that cycling is alive and well in the state of Missouri.
It is. It may not be on your radar screen, but this is a big sport. Come out and enjoy it. It's a free event to the public thanks to our corporate sponsors. And I would say also,
that got a piece of Blackburn, and Kadyr's only play is to go back to the bag. So
we got the man on second with nobody out. But yes, a big economic impact. Many of the top riders in the world are coming. Alberto Contador, winner of the Tour de France this year. Mark Cavendish, and George Hincapie, and all these other wonderful riders.
We'll get back to that in just a moment, but that ground ball from Billy Butler got a pretty good chunk of Nick Blackburn, and especially if it ricochets like it did over to Kadir. So Blackburn has already had his troubles in the second half as far as getting outs, and that's with a couple of healthy legs, and even the best pitchers in baseball need their legs. So we'll see how long the Twins will allow Blackburn to go. If he's going to stay in the game, he'll get a couple of warm-up tosses. So we're talking about the Tour of Missouri professional cycling race, and you were just starting to talk about some of the best cyclers that are going to be right here in Missouri.
Absolutely. George Hincapie, Mark Cavendish, Alberto Contador, Lance Armstrong's team will be in this race. Once again, we're not saying Lance is participating. We have our fingers crossed that he might show up, but his team will be here. Team Astana. We have your viewers should go to tourofmissouri.com. They'll learn all about the race. They can volunteer at tourofmissouri.com as well. We have a great week, great fun.
You know, Lance Armstrong's run in the Tour de France that captivated this country and got more people interested in cycling. And I have to admit, I don't know a whole lot about cycling other than hoping that he continues his run at the Tour de France. But what is it about this sport that people need to come out and watch in person that you can't capture when you're watching on television?
You know what? You can interact with the riders before the race starts or after it's over. In the evening, you can take your kids out, get autographs signed, visit with them, ask them about what it's like to do that Tour de France for 3 weeks in July. It's a really great interactive experience.
I imagine it's one of those sports too that you really need to experience in person to really appreciate the speed of the sport. As Jacobs rolls it to third, Creedy throws him out, and now Meyer, a late break to third, may have been out if the ball was handled, but it skips by Blackburn, and the Royals are going to take a 3-0 lead. So Meyer kind of gambled because he was very close to the bag at second base and waited until the throw was unloaded. And you wonder if that throw from Kadire to Blackburn covering arrived on the fly, would Meyer be safe? But Kadire, who normally plays right field, has some experience at first, misfired, and the Royals will take it. So 2 down, and the base is empty for Alberto Callaspo. He singled his first time up, and before the inning comes to an end, tourofmissouri.com.
Right.
The dates are September 7th through the 13th, beginning in St. Louis and ending right here.
With a big finale here in St. Louis, and Saturday the 12th from Chillicothe to St. Joe will be a great day for Northwest Missouri.
Well, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, we're still alive. Another base hit to left field.
We are.
You've gotten us 2 runs so far.
And 3 hits.
And we'll see what the Royals can do with 2 outs. How did you become involved specifically with this event?
I got handed the project 4 years ago. There was no one else in state government willing to step up, and it was pure carpe diem. It was seize the day. It was see if we could pull this off. I did not want to wake up one day and see that Wisconsin was doing this or Iowa was doing this or, excuse me, God forbid Kansas was doing that.
I knew you'd go there.
We saved the world from the Tour of Kansas. We did.
And now Mark Tien rolls to Casilla, and Blackburn has to come over off the mound, and the inning is over. Well, Mr. Kinder,
thank you so
thanks
much
for stopping by. Good luck with the event.
Thanks for having me.
Tourofmissouri.com. And the Royals getting 2 in the third. The first coming on David DeJesus' 10th home run of the year. Royals also getting a run on an error, so Kochaver with a 3-0 lead. And second time through the order, throws a strike to Denard Span. Luke giving up just 1 hit in the first 3 innings. That was Jason Kubel leading off the second, but Michael Kadire followed grounding into a double play, so Luke has faced the minimum. 1 ball, 1 strike. Let's go back to the Hall of Fame, and here's Frank White.
Ryan, I'm sitting in front of all the jerseys of the Royals minor leagues, and the minor leagues start with good scouting, good drafting, and good player development. And these are the different levels that players usually go through to get to the major leagues. We start with our rookie team in Arizona, our rookie team in Burlington, North Carolina. This is the new addition team that Dave Moore added when he came on as general manager. And our advanced rookie is in Idaho Falls. Then you go over to single A, which is our low A in Burlington, Iowa. Then on down to our high A in Wilmington, Delaware, down to Northwest Arkansas Naturals is double A, and ending in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, the good thing about this is that each level, it shows what players are more likely to be at this level when they start their careers. And everything, you can jump from double A to the major leagues, you can jump from Omaha to the major leagues, but it's very rare you can jump from any of these other places in the organization to the major leagues.
That's the jersey that Luke Hochevar is wearing tonight, and wearing the number 44, which is usually reserved for an offensive player and specifically a slugger. Cabrera into medium deep right field, and Josh Anderson fades back. So 2 down in the 4th inning. And now Hochevar will face Joe Mauer, who is the subject of tonight's League Leaders, brought to you by your Kansas City area Toyota dealers. Hochevar getting Mauer to ground out in the 1st inning, so his average drops all the way to 377. Still has a pretty good lead over Ichiro Suzuki. And Jason Bartlett, the former Twin, who wasn't much of a hitter in Minnesota, nor was he much of a hitter last year, but up to 344 this year. As good as Mauer is in any situation, specifically with runners in scoring position, he's even better. So even though you don't necessarily like to face Mauer, you don't mind facing him with nobody on base. Good pitch. Over the outside corner, down around the knees. Of course, Joe Mauer hits everything and hits it hard. And he has a career high 25 home runs this year. And most of his power is actually to center field and to the opposite field. So with most power hitters, you want to stay away as opposed to the middle of the plate and the inside part of the plate where they can pull the ball, really muscle up. But look at where Mauer hits the majority, at least in 2009, and right on cue he drives it to deep left, but DeJesus right in front of the track makes the play, and through 4 innings Luke Hochevar has faced the minimum. of the fourth with a couple of home runs tonight. Billy Butler with 2 outs in the first inning, and then David DeJesus leading off the third. Royals also getting a run on a throwing error by first baseman Michael Kadire. Well, Big 12 football returns to Fox Sports Kansas City next month. KU, K-State, Mizzou, and Nebraska are in Fox Sports Kansas City, as we're going to televise 18 games in HD, weekly preview shows, classics, replays, and more. Big 12 football all season long on Fox Sports Kansas City. Miguel Olivo back through the middle, and he is 1 for 2. So the Royals have the leadoff man on, and that brings up Josh Anderson. Broadcasting from just next to the Twins bullpen out in left field, and Frank White is in the Royals Hall of Fame. Frank.
Ryan, here we are back here at the Hall of Fame again. We're in front of Municipal Stadium. This is their first stadium for the Royals and the A's when they came to Kansas City. You can see here, once they were awarded a franchise here in Kansas City, from a span of November 1954 to April 1955, the stadium was ready to go. So in a matter of 5 months, they had a stadium that was ready to go. Also, one of the games that everybody watched, the last Chiefs game in Municipal Stadium, it was a 27-24 loss to Miami on December 25th, 71. Everybody saw that game. And when you go up to the full look at Municipal Stadium, there's so many interesting things about this stadium. I remember, even if you look at right field, you go back, there used to be a hill out there it used to be called Lamb Chop Hill. There used to be lambs out there along with goats, and you had Charlie O the Mule, and there used to be a little band right here in this corner. They used to police had their red pinstripe suits and one of those ragtime bands, and had a lot of things going on. There used to be a door that went right out to Brooklyn Avenue, and I can recall one night when Lou Piniella was highly upset. He made the last out of the game, and he continued all the way down the line, out the door, took a taxi home, and came back the next day. So but if you were able to look further this way, my high school sit above the third base bag, and we used to go up in the bleachers and look down and watch the afternoon games. And at night, we go down in the left field corner, and George Toma would let us sneak in the ballpark and sit down in GA. So a lot of great memories. I only grew up about 8 blocks south of there, and it was just so much fun for me.
And George Toma remembered that. Remember, he was in the Buck O'Neill legacy seat on the last homestand, and he pointed out that he remembered allowing Frank and his pals to sneak into the game. So 0-1 on Unieski Betancourt. So Miguel Olivo and Josh Anderson with back-to-back singles. And now Betancourt, who still is tied for the league lead in sacrifice bunts with 10, and that's been the case now for about 2 weeks. Trying to get Olivo to third and Anderson to second base. Unieski flied out to left in the second inning. So the Royals with 6 hits already against Blackburn in 3+ innings. And Betancourt fouls it away. Royals getting a 2-out home run from Billy Butler in the first, then a walk and a single to follow, but Blackburn got out of it, and then Blackburn a 1-2-3 second inning. But in the third, the Royals coming up with 2 runs on 3 hits, and now 2 hits to begin the fourth inning. And Betancourt strikes out. So a very unproductive at bat. Doesn't get the bunt down, doesn't advance the runners, and first and second with 1 away. That's Blackburn's first strikeout. So got him to chase the slider down and away, which wasn't a strike. It was only because Betancourt swung at it. So now David DeJesus, who homered to right field last time up, his 10th of the year, also flied out to center field. to go to the opposite field, fouls it away. Blackburn's ERA against the Royals this year, coming into tonight's game, was over 7, and that's gone up now. And there are a few guys in the lineup who have given him a bad time, and David is one of them. With his home run tonight, that makes him 7 out of 14 against Nick Blackburn. One ball, one strike. This was on the second pitch of the bottom of the third inning. Down and in. That pitch might not have been a strike. That might have been inside and off the plate. David getting his hands inside and just driving it over the railing in right field. Change up, hit hard, and that's going to be a double play. So Levo's first move was to third, and that cost the Royals a couple of outs. So Blackburn gets out of the fourth. To the top of the fifth inning, let's revisit You Call It, presented by Sprint, as we ask you tonight, who should be the next member of the Royals Hall of Fame? Kevin Appier, Joe Randa, Royals current hitting coach Kevin Seitzer, or Mike Sweeney? Text 432-432, enter keyword Royals, followed by a space, and then A, B, C, or D. And right now 41% going with Joe Randa, who was a fan favorite, followed by Kevin Seitzer. So the fans going with the former third baseman. Jason Kubel, the only Twin to reach against Hochevar in 4 innings. Single leading off the second inning, but then Michael Kadire bounced into a double play. So Hochevar has only faced 12 batters, the minimum. Kubel batting fourth with Justin Morneau out for the series. And Hochevar strikes out his second, getting Kubel to chase one up and out of the strike zone. Here's Luke's pitch count tonight, brought to you by James B. Nutter and Company. So 46 pitches, an excellent strike to ball ratio, better than 2-1. And Luke is without a walk. Inside on Kadire. So a couple of guys trying to fill the hole left behind with Justin Morneau back in Minnesota. He has an inner ear infection, which was causing him some dizziness. And the Twins just completed 4-game series at Texas. So Kubel taking a spot in the batting order, batting fourth behind Joe Mauer, and Michael Kadire taking a spot in the field, playing at first. Kadire, you might remember, was the Twins version of Mark Teahan for a long time. He played all over the field. Came up as a third baseman. He played some second base, some first base, right field, left field. Reaches out. Betancourt, nice backhand play on a short hop, and throws him out. That was the most difficult part of the play. And then just had to make a good throw over to Billy Butler. And now outside on Joe Creedy. Creedy popped to Olivo in the second inning. Creedy was born in Jefferson City, grew up in Westphalia, just outside of Jeff City, and has always had a lot of family and friends when his team comes to Kansas City. And with the friends and family on hand, he has always, it seems, played well here at Kauffman Stadium. Just missed the inside. 3 balls, 1 strike. Olivo runs to the screen and just runs out of room. So Luke Hochevar so far tonight not looking like a guy who hasn't won in almost a month, and like a pitcher whose ERA is 8.5 over his last 4 starts. Only 1 hit, 1 base runner in 4 2/3 innings. Working on his 4th 1-2-3 inning, and Creedy hit it off the end of the bat to Jesus just across the line to make the catch, and Hochevar indeed gets his 4th 1-2-3 inning tonight. Royals baseball brought to you tonight by Bud Light, which is the right taste that never fills you up. The difference is drinkability. And by Colorado Tourism. Plan your summer vacation at Colorado.com. Here's the Royals World Series trophy from 1985 as Frank White is taking us on a tour around the Royals Hall of Fame tonight. It's 1-1 on Mitch Meyer, and let's rejoin Frank.
Ryan, we're here still in the Hall of Fame, and we're taking a look at the old scoreboard here in Kauffman Stadium, which was Royal Stadium back in 1973. You can see it was really one of the tallest boards at that time and the animation was there, but only the animation was in black and white. And you look at the opening day in 1973, it was a pretty cold day. This is April 10th, and you can see how all the fans are all bundled up. But if you look at the outfield there, the water fountain is just not quite complete. The grass is not quite green. So there's still some work to do, and the fence is not painted or patted down the right field side. But that shows it was open for baseball, but the stadium just wasn't quite where it was. Kind of reminds you of our stadium when you look at the big board that we have now. This is the largest definition board in the world, and then you go to what we have today, which is up-to-date, modern, the K. This is look at the biggest animated board. You look at the nice green grass. You go from turf to grass, and all the way we've been able to connect right field and left field is pretty phenomenal. And here you can see the Hall of Fame in the background. And then you go right across the way here, and you get to look at some of the history of the Royals. And you look at the different uniforms. You go from the cotton wool blend to the slip over with the V-necks, then onto the button. And the V-neck was with the elastic band. Now, if you had a pouch, it was going to show. Whatever you had on those uniforms, it was going to show. So they went to the belt loops, and it changed. You got to see some of our pitching history: Jim Coburn, Steve Busby, Brett Saberhagen, and the no-hitters, and also the 1973 All-Star game here in Kansas City. And we're in hopes of getting another one here pretty soon. Back to you, Ryan.
That's the word, Frank. I mean, that was something that Major League Baseball had promised to the Royals if the renovations were passed, and that obviously has happened. And now just waiting for an actual date when the game's best players will come to Kansas City in the middle of July. Billy Butler down in the count, 1 ball, 2 strikes in the first inning, homered to left center, and he's also grounded out. Billy on the last trip, 5 doubles, giving him 41 now. That's the second most in the American League. Only Brian Roberts of the Orioles has more. Billy also had 7 RBIs on the trip. So a couple of stats where he just continues to add career highs too. Home runs, runs driven in. It was his 15th in the first inning and his 65th RBI to go along with the 41 doubles. Got him to chase a slider down and away. So Blackburn has struck out 2 to begin the 5th inning. And now Mike Jacobs, who is the subject of this week's AMCO AA MCO Clutch Play of the Week. And this is on Monday. Pinch hitting in the top of the 8th inning with 2 outs and 2 on. And a 3-run home run off of Scott Linebrink to tie the game at 7. White Sox ended up winning that game 8-7. It was the Royals' first pinch hit home run in over a year. And Jacobs hits it hard to KCA, who goes down to a knee and throws out Jacobs, and a quick 1-2-3 fifth for Nick Blackburn. in our Coors Light Freeze Cam. The Royals have hit 2 home runs tonight off of Nick Blackburn. Billy Butler in the first. Pitch down and in, and the same for David DeJesus in the third. Down and in. Coors Light Freeze Cam brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. So Billy with his 15th and DeJesus with his 10th. Meanwhile, Luke Hochevar has faced the minimum through 5 innings. You got Delman Young and a ground ball to short back in the 3rd inning. Only 1 base runner so far for the Twins against Hochevar, and that was Jason Kubel's single back in the 2nd. Back to Hochevar on 1 hop, and over to Butler, 1 away. Now Luke, with his very good sinker, at his best was a ground ball pitcher, but he's been throwing more 4-seam fastballs, and that's a fastball used more for location and velocity than it is movement. And with more 4-seam fastballs, more fly balls than ground balls, and as a consequence, more home runs. But tonight he's been much more of a ground ball pitcher, so keeping the ball down against Minnesota, which is more important these days than it has been in years past. The Twins were always a lay down a bunt, slashing type team, moving runners, stealing bases, relied very little on the home run. 2-1 on Carlos Gomez. Minnesota last year was dead last in the American League in home runs, but they were 3rd in the league in runs scored. That's how good they were at getting on base, or as they like to say, get them on, get them over, get them in. But not so much this year. They've been relying a lot more on power. They have more home runs right now than they did all of last year. They're 8th in the league in home runs, but they're 6th in the league in runs scored. So the power's gone up, but the run production has gone down. Pulled to the hole, and even if Betancourt fields that cleanly, that's a tough play with Gomez's speed. So he'll get an infield single. And only the 2nd hit against Luke Hochevar in 5 1/3 innings. Royals baseball brought to you tonight by the State of Missouri Tobacco Quit Line. Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. And by Wendy's. It's way better than fast food. It's Wendy's. So 1 on 1 out for the number 9 hitter, AT KCA. KCA grounded back to Hochevar in the 3rd inning. Gomez with 10 stolen bases this year. He had 33 last year and a lot more playing time. So 10 stolen bases. He's been thrown out 5 times. Alberto Callaspo with AT KCA at the plate. They both go back to the Angels organization. And another player where the list just goes on and on of former infielders from the Angels organization or currently with the Angels organization that are switch hitters. Callaspo, AT KCA, and then of course that are players that are with the Angels now: Myceris Turris, Eric Ibar, Sean Figgins. All very similar in size. Gomez runs, and Olivo's throw on a hop gets past Betancourt, gets past Callaspo. And now the throw back to the infield sails over Betancourt, but Callaspo holds at 3rd base. That's a stolen base, his 11th, and down to 3rd on the air by Olivo. So Betancourt going down to a knee, so it appeared that he had resigned himself to the fact that the Royals weren't going to get an out. He was just trying to keep the ball on the infield, but didn't get enough glove on it. So this is Minnesota's only scoring threat so far tonight, a runner at 3rd and 1 out. That's a fair ball. So Minnesota's on the board, and they're going to get another runner in scoring position. And KCA can run. He's going to hold at second base. Anderson with a good throw from the corner to get it to Alberto Callaspo. And that's when the stop sign went up from third base coach Scott Olger. So it's 3-1 with a runner at second base. KCA drives in his 13th of the year. Well, against a guy like KCA, who's not very big, you figure you're not going to get hurt going up and in. And that pitch appeared to be out of the strike zone, but he turned on it. And Anderson fumbled for a moment, but then a strong throw to the relay man Callaspo. And the pitch skips by Olivo, so essentially KCA just hit a triple. Holding at second base, that's a big difference between being at second base and one out and being at third base with one out, but because of the wild pitch, KCA ends up at third base. And I was just going to say, right before the KCA double, let's see how Minnesota does getting Gomez to the plate. Because when Minnesota really had it going, 2002, 2003, 2004, winning divisions, runner at third base, less than 2 outs, was almost an automatic run. 2-0 now on Denard Span. But as Frank and I talked about in the Minnesota series so far, that this isn't the same Twins team. And they've got some very good hitters in there, and as I mentioned earlier in the inning, they've been hitting more home runs, but they do not execute on offense like we're accustomed to seeing. But Span rips it into right field, so he gets the runner home, and now it skips by Anderson, and this is going to cost the Royals. It's still getting away from Anderson, and Span will circle the bases. Anderson not familiar with the corner here at Kauffman Stadium. That ball got away from him 2 different times here, and then as he was running it down, tried to grab it with his glove in his hand, and then it got away from him a second time. Span is going to get a triple and scores on the air by Anderson. So the Royals have committed 2 errors in the inning. Minnesota has tied it. And now Orlando Cabrera, who struck out against Hochevar back in the first. Luke has 2 strikeouts. Here's the Arby's pitch by pitch. And Cabrera, not quite sure what he was waiting for. He took a lot of pitches either on or close to the plate, taking 2 fastballs and then swinging at the slider, and struck out. Cabrera's also flied out to right. This time he's swinging early in the count and fouls it away. So this outing for Luke Hochevar has been turned upside down. With a 3-0 lead with 1 out and nobody on in the 6th inning. Now we're tied up and only 1 out. Hold the tee in. 2 away. Tonight's copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the Kansas City Royals. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Kansas City Royals Baseball Corporation. Joe Mauer 0 for 2. He flied out to deep left his last time. It'll be interesting to see next year how many Minnesota Twins fans will travel south for these series. The ball may have crossed up Olivo, the late movement on it. 1 ball, 1 strike. Twins fans for years, tired of watching baseball indoors at the Metrodome, love coming down to Kauffman Stadium and would dream about having a ballpark like this in Minneapolis. And they're going to get their wish next year at Target Field. So will that be enough for them to stay away from Kauffman Stadium? It's been a very friendly rivalry over the years. 2-2 on Mauer, but especially a series like this over the weekend. A lot of Minnesota Twins jerseys and caps, and tonight with the cooler weather, some jackets and windbreakers. Watching their team and watching them outdoors. There's Mauer's first hit tonight. Now the Royals defense has let down Luke Hochevar in this inning, helping Minnesota tie the game. Olivo and Anderson with errors, but that is also the 5th hit that Luke has given up in this inning. Let me take that back. That's the 4th hit in this inning, the 5th overall in the game, and by far the most pitches he's thrown in one inning. And now he misses outside to Jason Kubel, who had the first hit back in the 2nd inning. Then he was erased on a double play. And Hochevar, through 5 1/3 innings, had faced the minimum. And that's driven into right center, and Mitch Meyer wants it. And that's the inning. But Minnesota comes up with 4 hits. The Royals commit 2 errors, and the Twins tie the game. Slam inning. Our contestant is Teresa Baker from Belton, Missouri. And if the Royals hit a home run in this inning, Teresa wins $500. If the Royals hit a grand slam out of the park, Teresa wins $25 grand from Sonic and the Kansas City Royals. Alberto Callaspo will lead off. He has 2 hits against Nick Blackburn tonight. Blackburn has a couple of 1, 2, 3 innings, including his last inning where he struck out 2. And he's ahead of Callaspo. No balls, 2 strikes. So Alberto, batting just 182 on the road trip, is 2 for 2 to begin the 6-game homestand. Tonight, tomorrow night, Sunday afternoon against Minnesota, and then Monday through Wednesday against Cleveland. 1-2 on Cayaspo. Brian Lefevre with Frank White tonight. I am broadcasting from just on the other side of the left field wall. And we've been giving you a tour with Frank, who is inside the brand new Royals Hall of Fame. Frank.
Brian, this is our last segment from the Royals Hall of Fame tonight. We're here in front of all this gold. I don't know where it came from, so I'm going to let Kurt Nelson explain what this case is all about.
Well, this is one of my favorite parts of the whole Hall of Fame because I don't know if you noticed, but we had a second baseman once. He won 8 Gold Gloves. And his first one he won in 1977, you can see there, and 8 more of them. And then there's really a space at the bottom where the 9th one's supposed to be, because there's supposed to be a 9th one because Harold Reynolds stole one from him. But one of my favorite things is the actual glove that's in there. And that thing's pretty small right there. We've had a lot of little leaguers come in and think that they could probably wear that glove. So you could probably tell them how you can use that glove in a major league game.
Well, Kurt, I tell you, before I gave it to you to put in the case, I tried to put it on. It doesn't fit anymore. So, but it was great for turning double plays. So let's move on to George Brett's 3,154 baseballs. This is why he's a Hall of Famer.
This is definitely why he's a Hall of Famer, and this is a great piece, and it really captures people's imagination. This is to represent each and every one of George's 3,154 hits, and of course, embedded inside there is the bat that he used for the 3,000th hit and the ball as well. A lot of people think this is the pine tar bat because it's got so much on it compared to the real pine tar bat, which is over there, which doesn't have quite as much. But this is the 3,000 hit bat right here. You can see right here at the end, it's got George's his nickname in there, George Lou Brett, as you remember.
Well, that's true too. And George didn't wear batting gloves. You can see he used a lot of pine tar, and he used to take it and rub his hands down toward the end of the bat in between pitches, and that's how all the pine tar got on there. But how are these balls standing?
You know, was put together by a company called Dimensional Innovations here in Kansas City, and they put this together. It's with thread all, so each one of these baseballs is threaded together and it's screwed together. There's one. The designer told me there's one baseball on here that if you unscrewed it, that's where it begins, and you could unscrew every single one of them. But he wasn't going to tell me which one it was.
Okay, and Kurt, we went all through the museum tonight. I want to call it a museum because it's all history, even though it's a Hall of Fame. Now we're going to end up on the biggest and the most important piece of all, and that's the World Series trophy.
That's right, the World Series trophy. We talk about the division championship teams and the 1980 team that won the American League pennant. But the World Series trophy stands by itself. There's no other artifacts with it, and why should there be? Because that's what it's all about. That's what we're all trying to win, and we did in Kansas City in 1985. You can see inside there's a ring in there, and it's very fitting that the ring that's in there is Mr. Burke's, who was the president of the club at the time, and the Burke family has loaned that to us, so that's his ring that's down there.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, and I've enjoyed being in the Hall of Fame.
Game summary presented by Verizon Wireless. The Royals getting home runs early in the game. Billy Butler in the first inning and David DeJesus in the third. The Royals getting another run on an error. And then the Twins taking advantage of 2 errors as they scored 3 in the top of the 6th inning. And Luke Kochaver back to work in a tie game. And strike 1 on Michael Kadire. Kadire has grounded out twice against Luke. One of those into a double play. No balls, 2 strikes. It'll be Kadire, Creedy, and Young. 3 pitches and down he goes. Luke's 3rd strikeout, 1 down in the 7th inning. Royals baseball brought to you tonight by Panera Bread. Explore a menu full of soups, salads, sandwiches, and savory breakfast items. Panera Bread, where every detail matters. And now Joe Creedy, and he's 0 for 2. With 1 out in the 6th inning, the Twins coming up with 3 runs. A single, a double, and a triple getting the runs home to go with a couple of errors. KCA and Span driving in runs. The 3rd one coming on a Josh Anderson error in right field. One ball, 2 strikes on Creedy. The concern for Joe Creedy this year was his back. He had all kinds of back problems when he's with the White Sox. Then he signs with the Twins in the artificial surface, and wondering if that would bring the back problems back. But this year the back has been fine. He's had trouble with his right shoulder, and he didn't play the entire series when the Royals were in Minnesota in the last road trip. He had a cortisone shot in his right shoulder. Driven to deep center field, and Meyer is back just in front of the warning track. 2 down in the 7th inning. And now Bud Light will show us what's on tap for the Royals. Tomorrow, Kyle Davies against Brian Dunsing. Afternoon game on Sunday. Then the Cleveland Indians in town Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon. And then the Royals are back on the road. They'll play 4 games in Seattle and 3 games in Oakland. 0-1 on Delman Young. He is grounded out to short and grounded back to the mound. Been another disappointing season for Delman Young. 2 straight years now in Minnesota, but he has 3 home runs in his last 5 games, so they hope he is starting to warm up. It's also been a tough year personally for Delman Young. Earlier this year he lost his mother Bonnie to cancer. Tatian, and after struggling in the 6th inning, Kochaver has an easy 7th. tied at 3, and now we go to the bottom of the 7th inning, and we welcome back Royals Hall of Famer Frank White, who was our personal tour guide in the Royals Hall of Fame. It was great you did that. It was very interesting.
Well, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fans standing around watching and taking pictures, and it was kind of cool. I kind of want to end by saying, you know, it's been nice being in the Royals Hall of Fame. Now I'm going to go stand back in my case and wait for the fans to show up.
Well, so we got a chance to pan the area as you were taking us through the Hall of Fame. There certainly were a lot of fans watching. Josh Anderson just fouled one into the Minnesota dugout, and a member of the training staff went tumbling backward. Anderson is flied to left, and he is singled. He has also committed an error in right field that allowed Minnesota to tie the game in their 3-run 6th inning. Josh Anderson was acquired by the Royals at the end of July, but you might remember it took him a while to get to the Royals because his wife Heather was overdue to give birth to their first child. So it wasn't for another week that Anderson joined KC. He hits another bullet into the Minnesota dugout. He and his wife welcoming a son, Easton, who was born on a Tuesday morning. So Josh was able to spend a little bit of time with the baby Tuesday late afternoon, early evening, but by 4 a.m. on Wednesday, he was getting ready to go to the airport to join the Royals. And the Royals had a homestand followed by a 9-game road trip, and he had not seen his son until yesterday. And his wife Heather and son Easton and some family are able to drive in from Kentucky. So he had been seeing a lot of pictures sent via email, texted to his cell phone, but his first child he saw for less than 24 hours and then had to wait for almost 2 weeks until he got to see him again.
And you wouldn't think it, but that's a big difference in how they look on the day they're born and 2 weeks later. It's a big change.
Just missed the outside. It's 2 balls, 2 strikes. Josh will be followed by Yuniesky Betancourt and then David DeJesus. And the count from 0-2 to 3-2. And the Royals in a tie game now in the 7th inning. Would love to get Anderson on in his 15 stolen bases. At a play. You know, the one thing that just kind of blows me away, and I haven't been in the Royals Hall of Fame yet, but I have seen George's 3,154 hits in that one display with all the baseballs, and I can't help but think George walking in there and thinking about the 21 years it took him to get all that hits, and it just looks so easy in the number 5 with all those baseballs. Those baseballs, of course, don't include the blood, sweat, and tears. Well, as Anderson grounds out.
It sure doesn't. I tell you, it's just amazing to see that. And Kurt Nelson was telling me that they're all sewn together by thread. And he said there's one ball that you can pull and all the balls will come down, but they won't tell him which one it is.
There's the display we're talking about. 3,154 balls all sewn together, symbolizing George's base hit total in his 21 seasons with the Royals.
You go through that long plan, Ryan, you look at all the spring training games that you play and the playoff games, World Series games, and they only keep track of the ones that are in actual league play. But you add up all those games and all the other hits you can add. It's probably a pretty phenomenal number.
1-2 on Betancourt, who was flied to left and struck out, and his strikeout was big back in the 4th inning. The Royals had 2 on, nobody out, and on 2 occasions failed to get him bunt down, then struck out, and then David DeJesus lined into a double play. So 2 on, nobody out, did not produce a single run. Still 1 ball, 2 strikes. So Nick Blackburn, who's been trying to keep it together, and we told you before the game even started how much he has struggled in the second half. Well, he was down 3-0 at the end of 3 innings, but now working on his 4th consecutive scoreless inning. 2-2 on Betancourt. I got to think this really impresses the manager. A struggling pitcher struggles early but holds it together.
He held it together and gave his team a chance to get back and tie the game, Ryan. And now he just got to go out and put up a couple more zeros. And there's a big difference between the last time we faced him and what he's doing tonight.
Second out on a Betancourt ground ball. So 2 away. Now Panera takes us around the American League, where Seattle has defeated Cleveland. Bill Hall, who was released by Milwaukee, now playing with the Mariners, had a couple of RBIs. Toronto in front of the Angels, out to a 5.5 game lead in the West. Look at the Yankees over the Red Sox, man. 6.5 game lead, and they lead by 11. Tampa Bay in front of Texas. Chicago will be at home, is at home against Baltimore. They're tied in the bottom of the 7th, and Detroit is at Oakland. Chicago 2.5 back of Detroit in our division. David DeJesus, 1 out of 3. Hit his 10th home run of the year in the 3rd inning. Two and 0. Blackburn has now retired 10 straight. Last Royal to reach against him was Josh Anderson with a single back in the 4th inning. And a good pitch on the outside, and the count is even at 2-2. Well, it's that time of year when you have so many at bats like DeJesus does. You go 1 for 3 and your batting average doesn't move. Trying to shake out of the 260s and move up into the 270s.
And that's a big jump this time of year. Like you say, sometimes base hits you get one point and they may not move at all, and you get 2 hits and barely move. So I think right now he just have to just continue to just throw those hits out there, know that he's swinging good, and hope they can get back to that 270 mark.
David wasn't sure. He took that pitch outside, but looked like he was prepared for that to be called a strike. He hesitated until he heard ball 4 from home plate umpire Mike Everett, and that's the 2nd walk given up by Blackburn. Tonight's You Call It, presented by Sprint. Who should be the next Royal in the Hall of Fame? Well, the numbers would support Kevin Apier and Mike Sweeney, but right now the fans by 40% think that Joe Randa should be the next in the Royals Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's an interesting count. 4 players right there, all bring something very, very strong to the table. Kevin Apier, there's a lot of years here, and one of the anchors of the Royals pitching staff for a lot of years. And Kevin Seitzer, 200 hits. And Duranda had some good years here offensively. Mike Sweeney, his numbers kind of speak for themselves, what he was able to get accomplished here. But since I'm one of the guys that vote, I really can't give my opinion on this one.
Sure you can. So DeJesus at first, 2 down, and now Mitch Meyer, who's 1 for 3 and a run scored tonight. And a breaking ball in for strike 1. We can hear the pops of the glove just to our right. We are right next to the Minnesota bullpen. And with Blackburn now over 100 pitches, let's see, who do we have down there, Frank?
Well, Maharis
and Guerrier. And if we couldn't read the jerseys, we could just lean over the railing and say, "Excuse me, what's your name?" Because I mean, they are right there.
Do you think they'd ignore us?
They might ignore me. I don't know about you.
I think that these two guys are probably too young to know me. I think Rick Stelmasic, the bullpen coach, he might have to say, "Hey, you know, this is who this guy is."
There were some impressive innings on the last road trip that began with 2 outs and nobody on. And with 2 outs and nobody on in the first inning tonight, Billy Butler homered. And now 2 outs, nobody on in the 7th, a walk. And Meyer at the plate, and Mitch was thinking about laying one down towards third. Creedy was deep, but Mitch didn't get the pitch he was looking for.
Well, part of bunting is getting a good strike, and at the same time you got to have the real good bat angle to bunt this ball. Watch the bat head of his bat; it just sort of went down, and he could be pulling it back, saying, "I don't think this is a strike," but he's got to get those knees bent a little bit more right and get the bat a little bit more out front if that's what his intention is.
Now 2 balls, 2 strikes.
I used to have one rule when I was managing Double-A. I said, never go to 2 strikes on a bunt attempt without making a bunt attempt. It's almost like giving a strike away, and it shows that once you're not quite sure what you want to do, and you take that strike, then that tells me that you really didn't know what you want to do.
On the corner, so Mitch caught looking. He doesn't agree. That's 4 consecutive scoreless innings for Blackburn after being down 3-0. Hustle Award presented by Cabot Woodstains, and that sums up Mark's style of play. And Cabot Woodstains gives us our legendary performance, and it includes Brian McRae back in '91. BMAC going 2 for 4. Kirk Gibson, who is playing for the Royals, homered. Brett Saberhagen wins. He improved to 9-6, and the Royals beat the Yankees 7-4. Well, Kyle Farnsworth takes over in the top of the 8th inning after Luke Hochevar gives up 3, and Luke will leave with a no decision. Luke allowed just 1 single in the first 5 1/3 innings, but gave up 4 hits, 3 runs in the 6th. The Royals also committed a couple of errors. So Farnsworth in his first meaningful game since coming back from the disabled list. He'll get Carlos Gomez, AT KCA, and Denard Span. Gomez started the 3-run rally with 1 out in the 6th inning with an infield single, stole second, and on the throw to second for Miguel Olivo, that sailed into center field, and Gomez went to third. Into center field, and now a huge distraction for Farnsworth and the Royals. And now AT KCA, he was right in the middle of that 3-run rally with a double that scored Gomez. He went to third on a wild pitch and scored on Denard Span's triple.
Well, you're right. Farnsworth is a better when he's delivered and he got a chance to gather himself and throw strikes. If he's got to speed his delivery up, he's got to give himself got to shorten that stride. It's really going to be to the advantage of the base runner here.
Gomez's stolen base in the 6th inning was his 11th. He's been thrown out 5 times this year.
But he is really some kind of fast. In Minneapolis, he was just a routine fly ball to right field. He was on first when the ball was caught. He was halfway to the plate because he can really get those legs moving.
That's part of his game that the Twins really can't fault. Yeah, I was talking earlier when you were in the Hall of Fame about how the Twins have tried to convince him that at this stage in his career, his game is speed, not power. Get on base, use your legs, and when he is on, he really is a distraction. But one thing that he does every day, whether he's got 2 hits or no hits, is he's going to play hard.
But he always plays hard. You like the way he goes after balls.
Farnsworth fields the bunt. So KCA moves Gomez up to second base. And now the top of the order. The Kansas City Royals, the state of Missouri, and Fox Sports Kansas City have joined together to encourage young people not to smoke because once you start, it's hard to stop. Strike out tobacco so we can all breathe. Call the Missouri Tobacco Quit line at 1-800-QUIT-NOW. And now Denard Span, who tripled into the right field corner in the 6th inning. And with Josh Anderson's error, he circled the bases. So it wasn't ruled an inside the park home run, but he touched them all. And even with the 2 errors in Minnesota's 3-run 6, all those runs are earned to Luke Hochevar because base hits would have scored the advancing runners anyway. And you have to be alive for the bunt with Denard Span up there. I mentioned earlier he has 33 infield hits this year. That's the second most in the American League.
Think about Gomez, Ryan. He's just as distracting on second as he is on first. He still forces the pitcher to hold the ball a little bit longer, get out of his rhythm, try to be a little quicker to the plate. And third base for guys like Gomez, he's just still in first base.
Farnsworth jumps ahead, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Well, as you and I have said so many times, that the threat to steal at times can be just as effective as an actual steal.
You just have to look at how many times the pitcher steps off, how many times he throws over between pitches, then you can tell how much distracted he is. A lot of times, all it takes is just to throw over once, and then you just vary your looks. One time you look once, look twice, then pitch. You just have to just vary your looks. You don't have to throw to first base that many times, and that just wastes time and pitches. You know, back in the old days, for the guys that could run, they would say, "Well, let's throw over there a few times and And the more times we can make them dive back head first, the more times they pound those quads into the dirt and maybe slow them down when they take off. But the guys that can run, it don't seem to make a difference.
2-2 on Denard Span. Gomez with a leadoff single, bunted to second by KCA. And Span pulls it just foul. Well, we've been telling you tonight that the Royals won't have to worry about Justin Morneau in this series, as he is back in Minnesota dealing with an inner ear infection, which was causing some dizziness, so the doctors don't want him to fly. Denard Span earlier this year was on the disabled list for the same thing. He was experiencing some dizziness, couldn't figure out what it was, and come to find out it was an inner ear infection, which still bothers him now from time to time. And he was on the DL over 2 months ago. So he was in defense of Justin Morneau, not that Morneau needed that, but explaining to people, hey, I mean, this inner ear infection thing is real, and your equilibrium isn't quite right. Sometimes out in the field and feeling like you're in a bit of a fog. And
well, especially at the plate, you are in a fog at the plate because your mind is not quite where it wants to be. But you know, it's hard to play this game when you're leaning from side to side. You know, and you don't have that good balance in the middle. It's all about balance when you're playing on this field every day.
Farnsworth in relief of Luke Hochaver. And that's into center field, drops in front of Meyer. Gomez will be waved home, and the throw hits the lip of the infield, rolls off to the third base side, and into second base is Denard Span. And Minnesota, for the first time tonight, takes the lead.
He just stays short on this ball. He's just nice, short, quick stroke, line drive into right field. Mitch gets this ball in good shape, but he just tries to overthrow this ball, and the ball went down in the ground like it hit the edge of the grass and popped up and went off toward the third base side. But one thing you try to teach your outfield, see, I hit the grass right there, just went straight up. What we try to teach them is you can't overthrow. When you try to overthrow, you drive the ball in the ground or you airmail the ball, and that's been one of Mitch's problems now, just trying to find that in-between throw where he can throw the ball on the line, sacrifice a little power for accuracy, and then that would help him a lot. But the one thing you couldn't afford to do there was not hit the cutoff man and allow that runner to get to second base.
And now it's 2-0 on Cabrera, who's 0 for 3 tonight. Well, this seems more like Minnesota Twins baseball, of the old get him on, get him over, get him in.
And that's baseball. That's this time of the game. It called for a sacrifice bunt. Even though you had a guy on the base that could possibly steal a base, Ron Gardenhire said, look, we're going to bunt him over. And they got the bunt down. Casilla got the bunt down, and Span got the base hit, and Gomez scored to go ahead and run.
Now that is what you call taking all the way. Cabrera didn't even stay in the box as the pitch was coming in. He took a step out of the batter's box. Now that is something that a lot of big league hitters do, which I've never really fully understood. I mean, even if you know you're going to take a pitch all the way, don't you want to stay in the box, keep your eye on the ball all the way into the catcher's glove and see how the ball's coming out of the pitcher's hand and if there's any movement? I mean, what do you accomplish by just completely stepping out of the box?
I think on the first pitch you don't accomplish anything, but he'd already seen 2 pitches. He was 2-0. He probably knew he was going to get a fastball, but he just wanted to just take it all away, which I think is a good thing to do, because now you don't hit a lot of home runs. then you want to make sure that you give yourself every opportunity to get a walk. So he knew right away that he wasn't going to swing at this ball, and sometimes by moving slightly away, you distract from the pitcher and his accuracy to the plate. But if you lean off an inning, that's not a good thing to do.
And Farnsworth comes back to strike him out. So Cabrera is 0 for 4. Remember, you can stay connected to the game on your computer. Just subscribe to MLB.tv. You'll get 100 out-of-market games per week. Catch games you miss on demand. And a premium subscription allows you to pause, fast forward, and rewind live games. Get details about MLB.tv today at Royals.com. And now Twins fans are going to begin to boo. They started by chanting MVP as Joe Mauer comes to the plate. They will not see him swing the bat in this plate appearance. Mauer 1 for 3, singled his last time. And as we talked about earlier with David DeJesus, David batting .264 coming into the game. He was 1 for 3. His average did not move at all. Joe Mauer is hitting .378, and this late in the season you go 1 for 3. Technically his average could go down when you're hitting that high, but his average hasn't moved. And the question came up, Trey Hillman was asked about Mauer's chances of hitting .400, and Trey was saying, you know, he's pulling for Joe Mauer to do that, not against the Royals obviously, but this late in the season it is so hard to add points to the batting average, let alone 22 points. So Mauer walks and John Bale on to face Jason Kubel. Have runners at first and second with 2 outs. Let's check in with Joel Goldberg.
Well, I know you guys are enjoying the beautiful weather out there. We are going to enjoy the crowd over at Rivals, fireworks tonight, and of course post-game show. And as always on Fridays, we want to entertain some of the fans' questions, so you can text them in to 432-432, enter the keyword Friday, and then type in your question, your name, and where you're from. And Jamie Quirk, Paul Splittorff will answer some of those questions, and of course we'll have reaction and highlights and much more coming up on Boulevard Royals Live, guys.
All right, Joel, it's John Bale with 2 outs to face Jason Kubel. Bale with an ERA of 6.04 in 35 games. Kubel doesn't agree with that call, thought it stayed inside on the breaking ball. In head-to-head matchups, Kubel 1 for 5 against Bale with a couple of walks. 1-1. Single back in the second inning for Kubel. That snapped an 0 for 8, hitting at .307. One ball, 2 strikes. Kubel had a career year last year, but then of course there's always the question, can he do it again? Was that just a fluke season? Well, he's having another great year this year.
Well, he does a real good job of just staying in there. He has a nice short swing, and that fastball right there, he didn't give on it at all. It was down the middle of the plate, and I think that's the way you look by the lefty when John Bell throws a curveball. How much do they give on the curveball? And so far he's hung in there.
He has Span at second base, Maurer at first, and grounded to Butler. Boxes it around a moment, and Bale kicks the bag in front of Kubel. That's the inning, but Minnesota takes the lead 4-3. AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. AT&T, your world delivered.
So over this rail.
Well, Minnesota down 3-0 at the end of 5 innings, getting 3 in the 6th against Luke Hochshaver, 1 in the 8th against Kyle Farnsworth, and now the Twins will turn the ball over to their bullpen, Matt Guerrier. After 7 impressive innings from Nick Blackburn. Impressive because Blackburn really a struggling pitcher in the second half. His ERA over 10 since the break, and was down 3-0 at the end of 3, but finished with 4 scoreless innings. And from innings 4 through 7, only gave up 2 singles. A strike on Billy Butler, who homered against Blackburn in the first inning. That was his 15th of the year. Billy is 1 for 3. And it's 0-2.
He wants his pitch down, and I tell you what, that's a borderline pitch right there. Lamar did a good job framing it and bringing it back to the inside corner, but that strictly was a pitcher's pitch.
So 3 pitches, Butler is out, and Twins pitchers have struck out 7 Royals tonight. Royals baseball brought to you tonight by Thoroughbred Ford. Save on the all-new 2010 Fusion or the hot new 2010 Mustang at Thoroughbred Ford. And now Mike Jacobs, 0 for 2 with a walk. It was on this date back in 2005 that Mike Jacobs homered in his first major league at bat. He became the 90th player in major league history to hit a home run in his first big league at bat. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jacobs had just arrived from the minor leagues. His bats had not gotten there, so he had to borrow a bat from his teammate Cliff Floyd. He hit his first home run off of Esteban Loaiza. Jacobs didn't start the game. He was watching from the bench and noticed that Esteban Loaiza, to just about every left-hand batter, went fastball for a strike and then a changeup. So Jacobs coming in as a pinch hitter. Got up to the plate at Shea Stadium. Fastball for a strike. He says he didn't even see it. It just came out of nowhere, and he thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. But then he remembered that Loaiza would follow it up with a changeup, and sure enough, that was the second pitch. A changeup out over the plate. And with Cliff Floyd's bat, Mike Jacobs homered in his first big league at bat.
I wonder if he continued to use that bat throughout his career.
I'm sure Cliff Floyd had several boxes of bat. Could spare one to a rookie.
I think I would have just ordered my bats in his name. I used to do that with John Mayberry because all the sluggers got the better wood, so I ordered my bats in his name.
Really? And drilled into center field. So Jacobs at first with 1 out.
He gets a slider, Ryan, just drive this ball right back through the middle. I mean, that's a good piece of hitting right there. Even on the road trip, you can see where he's starting to go the other way a little bit more and try to get his swing under control a little bit more. And he did a good job just staying right on that ball right back through the middle.
Now Trey Hillman going with a pinch runner with 1 out in the 8th inning. Royals, I'm sure, thinking this is their best chance to get back into the game. Because if you don't score in the 8th, you're facing Joe Nathan in the 9th. So this is similar to the game on Monday in Chicago when Trey went for it in the 8th against Scott Linebrink, trying to avoid having to rally against Bobby Jenks in the 9th. And that's when that gamble paid off with the Mike Jacobs pinch hit 3-run home run. Iasco hits it right on the nose, but right to Carlos Gomez. So Bloomquist back to first and 2 down. Iasco is 2 for 4.
So this is a pretty good view from behind the outfielders out here in left center field. You know, just watching Gomez go out to that line drive, you can see him kind of start and stop and make adjustments. And when you got speed, it's really kind of fun to watch guys go through that.
Out comes Ron Gardenhire, and with Martin, the left-hand batter, coming up, it's going to be left-hand pitcher Jose Majares out of the pen. Came over to Joe Nathan, who was warming up just to our right. Tien so far tonight is 0 for 3.
Interesting, you come out of the bullpen and your first pitch is a 81-mile-an-hour changeup to a left-handed hitter. That's pretty risky right there.
One ball, one strike. Well, even as a broadcaster, there's a fan inside of all of us, but at the same time, it's difficult to be a broadcaster right now and not watch Joe Nathan warm up. I mean, it's not very often we get to get this close to one of the best closers in the American League and watch him warm up just to our right and see the velocity of his fastball, see his breaking ball.
Well, I want to look for movement too, and you know, there's something about a guy that makes him hard to hit, and a lot of it is not only the velocity but the movement of the fastball and how much deception do you have on your breaking pitches.
Another good year for Nathan. He has outstanding numbers in his career against the Royals. And he is not warming up, Joe Nathan that is, as if he is just waiting to come in for the bottom of the ninth. He's warming up as if Tien were to do something here against Maharis with Miguel Olivo coming up, that Ron Gardenhire might ask him to get 4 outs.
He's going to be the next guy, that's for sure. But normally he'd wait till this inning's over and then he'd start warming up while the Royals are batting, but he's working pretty quick.
Well, Miguel Olivo in his career has always been a lot better against left-hand pitching than he has against righties. I'm not sure this late in the game that Ron Gardenhire wants to put the game in the hands of Maharis. Bloomquist is picked off, so it becomes a moot point. It'll be Tien leading off the ninth. Minnesota by 1. Coming up tomorrow, the first 20,000 fans will receive the 40th anniversary cap chosen by Royals fans. The design features a background and crown logo made from hundreds of the Royals script logo, representing the many fans who have stood behind the team for the past 40 years. Get tickets at 1-800-6-ROYALS, Royals.com, the box office or area Hy-Vee food stores. Thank you, Phil. So Jamie Wright on for the top of the ninth. It'll be Michael Kadire, followed by Joe Creedy and Delman Young. Luke Hochevar, the first 7 innings, gave up 3 runs, 5 hits. Kyle Farnsworth gave up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Right now, Farnsworth, the pitcher of record. Bale got the final out of the 8th. And now Jamie Wright. Kadire 0 for 3. Brought a 7-game hitting streak into the game tonight. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Kadire was just 1 for 13 when the Royals took 2 out of 3 from Minnesota at the beginning of the last road trip. So right now, Michael Kadire is 1 for his last 16 against KC. 2-2. Just missed the inside. That was a pitch that was called earlier on Billy Butler.
Well, you're right, Ryan. This is a similar pitch, and both pitches did the same thing.
Let's see Olivo trying to pull it back.
If you don't really jerk it too much, then the umpire won't penalize you for it. But if you almost seem to catch it, didn't move it, then you get caught and penalized.
Now Jamie Wright puts him away with a fastball. So Kadire is 0 for 4.
That's that sinker that Jamie had. That's a real good sinker there, Ryan. That ball just comes shot on the like it starts on the outside part of the plate and ends up underneath the swing. But you still like to see it turn over more with a little more down to it.
Ball 1 on Joe Creedy, who is hitless in 3 trips. Royals got 1 in the first inning on a Butler home run. 2 in the third. David DeJesus homered. Another run scored on a Minnesota error. To center field. Mitch Meyer is there, and 2 down. So the Royals had a 3-0 lead going into the top of the 6th inning, but Minnesota, after doing next to nothing against Luke Hochevar for 5 innings, came up with 3. There were a couple of Royals errors and a wild pitch. All 3 were earned runs. That tied the game. And then in the 8th, the Twins taking the lead against Kyle Farnsworth. And right now, the difference in the game is Denard Span's single that scored Carlos Gomez. Ball 1 on Delman Young. One ball, 1 strike. Royals have a winning record against the Twins this year. They have won 2 series. They have lost 1. The 2 series they have won have been in Minnesota, which has been a horrible place for the Royals over the past decade. But the Royals are 4-2 at the Metrodome. And against the Twins here at Kauffman Stadium, the Royals are 1-2. Tied him up badly, and Jamie tried to deflect it with his foot out at first base. So the Royals down by 1 to the bottom of the 9th against Nathan, with Tien, Olivo, and Anderson coming up. Of the 8th inning, they're the tying run on with 1 out, but couldn't come through against Matt Guerrier and Jose Majares, and now they'll have to do it in the bottom of the 9th against Joe Nathan. Another very good year, 3 blown saves and 34 opportunities, and the opponent's hitting just 160 against him this year. Now, as far as his numbers against the Royals, there you go. 33 saves, a 0.73 ERA. He has blown 2 saves against KC, both of them here, and one of them against the batter he will face to lead off the bottom of the 9th, Mark Teahen, who last year in May took a save away from Joe Nathan with a 3-run inside the park home run.
He didn't lead the base running hard, but he saw Delmagnon try to make a great play on that ball, and he went down that corner, and it was all over after that. It was just a matter of how fast can I get there.
So that tied the game for the Royals in the bottom of the 9th. Minnesota ended up winning it in extra innings. Teahen just got a piece.
Yeah, that's the one pitch there that he's really had a hard time laying off of this year. And when he's laid off that pitch, he's had a lot of success. But when the pitchers are getting that ball in there and he keeps swinging at it like that, then that really ties him up and gets him on his heels, and he just can't do anything with that pitch.
More hittable pitch, and Teahen fouls it away. The other blown save for Joe Nathan here at Kauffman Stadium, it was the final game before the All-Star break in 2005, and he and Mike Sweeney hooked up in about a 25-minute duel. Sweeney fouling off pitch after pitch and then homered. And after the game, Joe Nathan even admitted that was cool. He had never had a battle against one hitter that went that long. And even though Teahen, or Sweeney rather, prevailed with the home run, Nathan appreciated the battle, and it was very similar to the Mark Teahen inside the park home run. It was a blown save for Nathan, but the Twins ended up winning that game in extra innings. Lays off the pitch this time. 1-2.
I wonder when you have closers like Nathan to come in the game in these type of situations. Ryan has had a lot of success against ball clubs. I wonder how they feel coming into the game, knowing that they pitched well against us. I wonder how much excitement they get coming in the game, feeling like, I know I've got this one. Or do they go in with a little apprehension that, hey, I still better keep my nose to the grindstone, and these guys can beat me. As soon as I let up, somebody's going to take advantage of it.
Well, they're going to try and go back inside against Teahen, and he fouls it away. Well, you tell me. I mean, when you've been around as long as Nathan is, do those mind games still work?
Well, I think when you're dominating a team, I think you just come in there thinking that I'm dominating you, and you do everything you can to keep yourself in that frame of mind. I think, and that's just where the preparation comes from, where you pitch just as hard against the teams that you're dominating than the ones that you're not. And if you let up, you usually get burnt regardless of how well you pitch.
Over the mound to Cabrera, and just got Teahen. Now, we were watching Joe Nathan warm up, and this was very early in his warm-up pitches, but we were noticing that he wasn't getting a slider over for a strike. Everything was down. And this is how close we are. And this might be completely unrelated, but Jesse Crane is warming up now in the bullpen. And every now and then, and we are talking about Joe Nathan, don't get me wrong, I mean, one of the best, but every now and then a guy doesn't quite have it in the bullpen, and the bullpen coach will give the dugout a heads up.
Well, that's true. You go by number of quality strikes you throw in the bullpen, and he was having a hard time getting his slider over. Then he goes out there and makes the first pitch breaking ball over for a strike. So right now it's more of like locating his fastball. There was a couple pitches to Mark 10. He won it up and in. He left out over the plate, and Mark really let him get away with those 2 pitches.
Miguel Olivo 1 for 3 with a single tonight. Threw a fastball right by him at 94.
So summer leaguers will say, warming up in the bullpen, you know that you need that adrenaline going to get warmed up, but then when you get on the mound, it seems like you get a little bit more because you don't have a batter down here and you don't have the crowd to deal with. But when you get out there, that's where it all comes together for you.
So Olivo now 0 for 7 with 5 strikeouts against Nathan.
Well, this is that slider right there. And they just did. I mean, that's been, if I had to pick one pitch all year for Miguel Olivo, that would be the pitch right there. That breaking ball from a right-hander going down and away. He's chased probably that pitch more than any pitch. If you want to just go back and look at how many bat balls that he swings at during the course of the season.
So Brian Pena will bat for Josh Anderson. And Brian with an 11-game hitting streak. And he was fooled by the hard breaking ball. And Brian has never faced Joe Nathan before tonight. So as he's taking quick inventory, he is now filed into his memory bank. This guy's got a pretty good breaking ball. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, the one thing that he hasn't shown anything off speed that would constitute like a changeup or anything. So his curveball slider is still pretty hard, and his fastball is hard. So it just matters just making it be up and be a strike.
Got the corner.
Well, this is what you just call flat out nasty right there. This ball just runs right to the outside corner, and Brian Pena has no chance on that pitch.
Well, he's going to get another look at the slider and didn't get the corner. Delman Young, who's right in front of us as a Twins left fielder, when that pitch hit Joe Mauer's glove, he went running towards left center field over to shake hands with the rest of the Minnesota outfield. Not so fast. 3-2.
So you don't think he was anticipating the pitch?
Maybe he was just keeping his legs loose.
The first time we see it from the corner, a guy trotted 5 or 6 steps after a pitch from left field.
That slider stayed up, but it was so far inside there was nothing Pena could do with it except foul it away. Stroked into deep right field. Back goes Span. Pena ties the game. So the Royals went over a year without a pinch hit home run, and now they have 2 in the same week.
And just as it appeared that your stadium was full of Minnesota Twins fans, Brian Pena hits a home run, and you got an idea how many Royals fans were still here. And all you had was Twins fans on their feet cheering for the last strike and the last out. And Brian Pena brought all the Royals fans who had conceded defeat to their feet. Oh, my goodness. That's all hands. He just snapped on that pitch out over the plate like that, Ryan. I mean, that nobody, just all hands. And I think the more time players realize that the easy swing works.
Now back our way. Delman Young to the wall, and it just stays in play. Betancourt on his way to second base, and he's in with a double. We almost ended up with the game-winning home run right in our lap.
This is just fastball around this ball. I mean, he just got on top of this fastball. I mean, he did a great job of getting an extension on this pitch. And we just, like you say, another couple of feet, and Rawls are going into the dugout. And he thinks he's got it, which is a big mistake right here. So he really had to hustle to get in. I mean, when you don't hit a lot of home runs, you better run until you see that ball disappear.
Wow. Well, I noticed, and I wasn't sure if it was Delman Young who had played it so far off the wall, but we have such a great angle out here in left field. When Young unloaded that throw, all of a sudden I realized, wow, they've got a shot to get him at second base.
Well, that's all what you do when you lead. He jogged pretty much all the way to first base, and then he saw the ball didn't go out of the park. He said, and Delman Young fielded it cleanly off the wall. He said, I better get going. But I tell you, you get thrown out on that play, I tell you, that's not a good situation there.
The Royals have never beaten Joe Nathan. Again, he has two blown saves against the Royals, but both ended up tying the game. And in both instances, Minnesota ended up winning the game in extra innings. So now it's 3 blown saves, all on home runs, all here at Kauffman Stadium.
I know coming up, if you hit a ball like that and you think it's gone and you jog and you don't get to second base, and you're usually out of the game when I came through. I mean, when you don't hit a lot of home runs, they say you better run till you see that ball disappear, and then you can break it down. But don't break it down until the ball's over the wall.
Well, what if that ball hits one of the corners of the pads or the wall and bounces away from Delman Young? I mean, you could be on third base.
Well, you figure he jogged 90 feet, so that's halfway to third base at least right there.
So David Jesus, who has struggled against Joe Nathan, has a chance to win the game in the bottom of the ninth. And he hits it to center field and right at Gomez. So the Royals leave Betancourt at second, but Brian Pena leaves the ballpark with 2 outs and nobody on. A pinch hit home run ties the game. Base coach Dave Owen as he tied the game with 2 outs, nobody on, 2 strikes, and a home run against Joe Nathan.
Well, that's the hands on that run. He just really snapped the wrist down through that ball and through the bat head, and Ron Garnhart knew right away that was going to be a one ball he'd have to worry about, and he got it into the bullpen.
And now Joakim Soria will take over in the top of the 10th. And Carlos Gomez, that's a problem for him, chasing pitches like that. No balls, one strike. Now Willie Bloomquist ran for Mike Jacobs, and Bloomquist goes into the game in right field. So the Royals have lost the DH. So Joakim Soria now bats in the number 8 position. Now the number 8 position for the Royals is a ways down the line when they come up in the bottom of the 10th. So this is most likely then just, well, it could be a 2-inning outing for Joakim Soria, but certainly Trey Hillman banking on by the time his spot comes up, he's not going to have to use Soria as a hitter. Just missed outside to Gomez. Gomez 2 hits, 2 runs scored tonight. It was a 25-pitch inning for Joe Nathan. And Jesse Crane continues to warm up in the Minnesota bullpen. And now 3 balls, 2 strikes on Gomez. Gomez 0 for 2, 2 strikeouts against Joakim Soria. Make it 3.
Can't throw a fastball any more perfect than that, Ryan. Down right at the knees, and Gomez really just looking for way too much. You know, right there with 2 strikes, you just want to try to put the ball in play, but you caught between trying to swing and bunt. A lot of times it just boils down to what plan you make before you get into the box, and he just didn't seem to have a plan going into this at bat.
Here's Willie Bloomquist in right field. Well, it seems that the good hitters, no matter when it comes, are still always ready for their pitch.
They're always ready for that fastball if it's in their zone, and they don't foul it off too much. They usually get it. And the good pitches, they can foul off a few pitches and try to get you to work, try to work you back to where they want you, and that's the big difference. The guys who hit 300, they always seem to know exactly what they're looking for all the time.
Yeah, and if you go back to that pitching sequence to Carlos Gomez, the first pitch that he did swing at was about nose high, and then the one that he takes at the end was down in the zone where you think he would want it.
Well, it wasn't a really good plan. I mean, you're not a home run hitter. Speed is your asset, and you swing at the first pitch up over your head. That doesn't make any sense right there. So that tells me that there was just no plan at all for that first bat leading off the inning.
Second hit for AT KCA, so he's on with 1 out. And the top of the order coming up for the 5th time tonight. So Denard Span lost a game-winning RBI on Brian Pena's home run in the bottom of the 9th. He had singled home Carlos Gomez in the top of the 8th that put Minnesota ahead 4-3. And Span has driven in 2 tonight, as well as scored a run. And he hits that ball hard into deep right center. Meyer runs it down. Well, from our angle, looks like right center, but looking at the monitor, that's straight away center field.
We don't get this angle too often.
Well, it was kind of towards right center, wasn't it?
Well, Mitch ran toward right
there
center.
There we go. He was headed towards right center. Thank you, Frank. But from where we are, that looks like he was in right center field. So KCA at first, 2 down for Orlando Cabrera, and this is a must out because on deck is Joe Mauer. He went around. Cabrera 0 for 4 tonight with a couple of strikeouts. And he's 0 for 5 against Soria. Bloomquist in right field, and that drops, and now it rolls by him. So Minnesota retakes the lead, and into third base is Cabrera. And that's the second time tonight the Royals have misplayed a ball in the right field corner.
Well, this is a real good pitch by Sawyer right on the outside corner. Cabrera was really reaching for it, and it had some slice to it, but Willie just got a little too close to it, and it just, when it hit that spin, just took it right to the foul line and in foul territory right down the line. If that ball's hit square, the ball bounces up, goes right to him, with so much spin on it, as soon as it hit the ground, it bounced to the right up against the wall and right down the line.
Well, Twins fans are going to boo again as Joe Mauer is going to be intentionally walked for the second consecutive plate appearance. Well, he's a .378 hitter, and that leads the major leagues. And even against Joakim Soria, Mauer is above average. He is 3 for 7, so that's .429. So a 1-out single to Casilla and a 2-out RBI triple from Cabrera. And the Royals want to keep this a 1-run game going into the bottom of the 10th inning. So Mauer walks, and now Soria will pitch to Jason Kubel. And Kubel against Joakim Soria is 0 for 5. Fastball for strike one. Didn't mean to go around. Tien bare hands, throws, and Butler picks it. That saved a run. But Minnesota takes the lead on a second RBI triple in the right field corner tonight. In the 10th, it's Cabrera scoring Casilla. In the bottom of the 9th and regaining it right away in the top of the 10th. And Orlando Cabrera just reaching out and slicing the ball up the right field line and down into the corner. And Joe Nathan, who has already suffered a blown save tonight, has a chance to win the game. He stays on for the 10th. It'll be Meyer, Butler, and Bloomquist. Bat heads towards first. The ground ball towards the second baseman, KCA. Mitch Myers 1 for 5. Nathan got the first 2 outs. He got Tian on a ground out, Olivo on a strikeout, and he was ahead of Brian Pena 1-2. Brian fought back to fill the count out at 3-2, and then a slider that stayed up and towards the inside part of the plate, and Pena lined to right field for a game-tying home run. One 1-0 on Billy Butler, homered back in the first inning, his 15th of the year. Two 2-0.
It was fun to watch Billy on his last road trip and what he was able to do at the plate, Ryan. Just really get quality pitches to hit, and when he got them, just do something with them. And, you know, he just right here just laying off the tough pitches, waiting on his pitch.
And then when he gets in counts like this, doesn't try and muscle up, just stays with his plan.
Stays with his plan, uses his hands, hits the ball where it's pitched, and in this situation here, he can center his pitch on this pitch also, and if it goes 3-2, then he can open it up.
Back to the middle, and the Royals have the tying run on with 1 out. It's a 2-hit game for Billy Butler.
I mean, just really relaxed through this whole at bat, and he gets a slider here and just stays right with it. A lot of guys will roll over on that pitch, but Billy has really started seeing the ball really well and started using his hands, and he's just done an outstanding job throughout the last road trip of just getting his pitch and hitting it where it's pitched.
And now Willie Bloomquist, and there is no one more motivated in a Royals uniform at the moment than Bloomquist, who misread a slice off the bat of Orlando Cabrera and turned what should have been a single, putting runners at first and third. Instead turned into a triple into the right field corner and put Minnesota back out in front. Bloomquist entered the game in the 8th inning as a pinch runner for Mike Jacobs, and the Royals were hoping to tie the game in the 8th, and Bloomquist was picked off by left-hander Jose Majares for the final out of the 8th inning. 1 ball, 1 strike. Willie 1 for 3 in his career against Joe Nathan. Billy Butler with a 1-out single. Sorry, Frank.
Normally in this situation, you'd have a pinch runner for Billy, but carrying 13 pitchers, you're 1 position player short. So John Buck's the only guy on the bench right now. So you got to hope you get the right type of ball hit that Billy can score on a double.
Good point. That's one thing that the Royals lost when Alex Gordon went to AAA. He was not replaced with another position player. Now, if this were AA Wichita a few years ago, Zach Greinke would be campaigning to his manager that I can pinch run for you. And Willie drops it into right field. Butler was thinking about going first to third and may have been able to advance. I'm not sure where Billy had his eyes, if he made that judgment on his own or if he was looking at his third base coach, but it looked like he had a shot to go first to third, but then slammed on the brakes.
Well, that just kind of comes from not wanting to make a mistake. And if you don't have the speed and you tend to err on the side of caution, but that was a perfect first to third ball there. But like I say, without that additional player that you can pinch run in that situation, then Billy's going to err on the side of caution because of lack of speed overall.
Now you've got a left-hand throwing right fielder coming over who appeared to not be in a good throwing position, and Denard Span's throw back to the infield was not a good one. And Billy made that judgment on his own. He was not looking at his third base coach. You think Dave Owen says, hey, let's go for it and try and get Billy over to third base?
Well, normally we just watch the base runner, not the third base coach, to see what he's doing. But Billy never looked. He just read this play himself right off the bat. And the way the ball came off, most times as a base runner that's used to going first or third, he would just automatically go.
So 2 on for Alberto Callaspo. A couple of singles for Callaspo in the first and third innings. 2 for 4. One of his outs was a line out to center field. Callaspo is 0 for 6 against Joe Nathan. 1-1.
I guess getting back to your story about Zach in Double-A, he was always there, wanting to pinch hit, wanting to pinch run, and I just say, Zach, you're gonna have to go sit down because I don't want to lose my job if you get hurt down here, pinch running or pinch hitting. So he just laugh and go back down the other end of the bench. But I tell you what, he's always ready to play, and he's always ready to help the team win in any capacity. And even when he came out of ball games, he would never go to the locker room. He'd stay on the bench the whole entire game and root for the guys.
With 1 out, back-to-back singles from Butler and Bloomquist. Joe Nathan blowing a save in the bottom of the 9th on a home run against Brian Pena, who is appearing as a pinch hitter. And then Minnesota in the top of the 10th, going back out in front on Orlando Cabrera's triple into the right field corner. Two and two. Sometimes when the pitches are up, that's a reflection that the pitcher is getting tired, especially his legs. And I don't know how often Joe Nathan has thrown 39 pitches in one day, but I'll bet it's not very often.
Not very often on the mound, and you put that with the pitches that he throw in the bullpen to get ready to go in, and that adds 60, maybe 60 pitches total.
Still alive.
Yeah, the raw hitters are getting real good swings at it, and the ball just doesn't have the same life at this point. And if he doesn't spot his fastball where he wants it, it gets hit. And his slider, he'll throw a good one, and then he'll throw 2 bad ones. And that pitch there was a good breaking ball, but Caspo looked like he saw it all the way and had a good swing at it.
He's at 40 pitches now, and that's the most pitches Joe Nathan has had in one game this year.
Well, he won't be in there tomorrow.
Callaspo rolls it just foul off to the first base side. Still 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, the Twins need to win games if they want to stay in this. And right now, you can't say that the Twins are out of it, but they are fading 6.5 games back in the American League Central. They've lost 13 of their last 20. They have lost every series they have played against an American League Central team since the All-Star break. So that's why Ron Gardenhire is stretching out Joe Nathan like he is tonight. They need to have this one. Time is running out. Popped up and out of play. So 43 pitches now for Nathan and 8 in this battle with Alberto Callaspo, and Joe Mauer is out to the mound again. Doing a couple of things, I guess, Frank. Number one, going over pitch sequence, and number two, with Nathan pitching tonight like he normally does it, going this long, give him a chance to catch his breath.
Yeah, he probably needs that 8 pitches, and he made a real good pitch there to Callaspo up and in, and he's lucky to get the bat on that one, but you can only make so many. You have to come back and have to make so many quality pitches under stress like that when you know you don't have your good stuff. That takes its toll on you. So a mental break is always good.
Another foul ball. Nathan was so close to sending his team to the locker room. Twins leading 4-3 with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, and he was ahead 1-2 on Brian Pena. It looked like another easy save for Nathan against the Royals, but Brian fighting back to 3-2 and then hitting the home run to tie it. And it's been a struggle since. So getting the first 2 outs in the 9th, but now 4 of the last 6 Royals have reached against Nathan. And Callaspo fouls another ball away.
Yeah, he's just simply just trying to put the ball in play. He's just sort of flicking the bat at the ball and until he gets the pitch that he wants. But he's fouling off some pretty tough pitches this at bat. As much as Joe Nathan appreciated the battle with Mike Sweeney, I don't think he's appreciating this battle with Callaspo tonight too well.
Well, you have to wonder, how long does Ron Gardenhire stay with Joe Nathan as the pitches continue to mount? Center field. Butler tags. Gomez has a very good arm, so Billy's not going anywhere. And 2 down. Now, can't help but ask. You go back to that play where Billy Butler does not go first to third. That fly ball possibly ties the game.
That does tie the game. That's what you have to look at. You have to look at being aggressive and reading the ball off the bat. And when you're on first base, the one thing you want to look for is the different angles that the outfielders have to go to make this play. And this is the ball that Billy has to read himself, and there's plenty of time to go to third. But, you know, when you like I say, Ryan, when you don't run well, you're afraid you're going to make mistakes. And he didn't want to make a mistake in that situation, but he's probably kicking himself for not pushing the envelope right there.
Well, why not? My point is, why not just put your head down and don't play third base coach? Allow your third base coach to be the third base coach.
Well, he did have it hit. It was down.
And then look at the throw. I mean, that throw's not going to get anybody.
And then when he put his foot on second base, he just broke it down. That's when he took his look after he hit second base. And that's not being a confident base runner right there.
So first and second, 2 down, and now Mark Teahan. There's the nasty Nathan slider, 88 miles an hour, and just disappears underneath Teahan's bat. One and one. So he showed you when Teahan led off the bottom of the 9th inning against Nathan. He has come through against a Twins closer before in May of last year. A 3-run inside the park home run against Nathan in the bottom of the 9th to tie the game. And again, the Royals are down to their last strike. Joe Nathan's next pitch will be his 50th.
So I would probably feel it like 30, 35 in the bullpen over here, 20, maybe 25 to 35 in the bullpen. So maybe an 85 pitch overall night.
His next outing will be September the 10th. Tian lays off that pitch, and that's the pitch that Nathan and Joe Mauer were hoping was going to end the game.
That was similar to the first pitch that Mark Tian swung at, a little bit more in the dirt and not quite high enough, but they've had a lot of success with that pitch.
So Nathan has gone from the most pitches he has thrown this year to now the most pitches he has thrown as a Minnesota Twin. With the San Francisco Giants, where Nathan began his career, he was once a starter. Somehow Tian made contact with that pitch and pulled it foul. It was either hit or be hit. It looks like Ron Gardenhire was on his way out to the mound to call on Jesse Crane, who's been warming up for quite a while, but you could see Nathan with his right hand saying, "I'm fine."
Well, I mean, he probably blew the save, and he wants a chance to get this victory here, and he probably knows how the bullpen's been going and how the pitching staff's been going overall, and he feels, hey, I'm out here, I'm already out where I'm at, so I might as well stay in here and get it all done. But you probably won't see him again in this series.
And again, they're going to talk it over. Here's a couple of veterans here who have been in this situation before. They know each other, and rather than feel rushed by the situation, what has been a long game now, and thinking about let's get this thing over with, just taking their time and making sure they're on the same page and making the right decision.
They just want to slow the game down and know that, like you say, know that they are throwing the right pitch. This is the pitch he wants to throw, and it's the old cat and mouse game. You know, that's what makes baseball what it is. The hitter versus the pitcher, the catcher, and the scouting report.
Lays off it again. 3 balls, 2 strikes. So now the advantage of the runners going. So Butler does not have good speed at second base, but he's running. So anything to the outfield, he scores. But if Tian can get a ball near a gap, doesn't have to necessarily get the ball deep to the gap into the wall, but somewhere in between the outfielders, Bloomquist may have a shot of scoring from first.
Yeah, with his speed, definitely, Ryan. Anything questionable double for Tian is going to be a questionable score for Bloomquist.
And Tian drives it to right. Span is there. A heartbreaker. Couldn't hit it any harder, but he couldn't make it any easier for Denard Span. Hardly had to move. So Joe Nathan pitching on fumes. Gets through 2 innings, blows a save in the 9th, and then hangs on for the win in the bottom of the 10th. So Minnesota down 3-0 early, tying the game in the 6th, taking